Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, I invite you to subscribe right now because we bring you the most important updates about SASSA payments, disability grants, pensions, and all the support programs that matter to seniors, people with disabilities, and families living on fixed incomes. Staying informed about these programs can make a real difference in your daily life, and we want you to always have the latest news first, explained in a clear and simple way. So if you haven't already, go ahead and join our community today. It's completely free and ensures you never miss an important payment update. Now let's get right into today's breaking news. The South African Social Security Agency, better known as SASSA, has officially confirmed that the disability grant payments for September 2025 have been paid today. This is the news so many people have been waiting for, because the disability grant is a vital lifeline for thousands of South Africans who depend on it to cover their daily needs, medical expenses, food, and household costs. For many families, this grant isn't just a small support, it is the difference between survival and falling into deeper financial stress. Whenever SASSA payments are released, people immediately want to know three things. First, has the payment really been made and who is receiving it today? Second, how much is the payment and are there any changes compared to last month? And third, are there any new rules or policy changes that could affect future grants? Today, we'll go step by step to answer all of these questions so that you have all the facts in one place, explained in simple language that anyone can understand. Let's begin with the confirmation. According to SASSA, the disability grant for September has been processed and is now available for collection through the usual payment channels. That means if you are approved for the grant, you can access your money today at your nearest pay point, through your bank account if you are using direct deposit, or at retail partners such as Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Boxer, and other stores that work with SASSA. The important thing to know is that these payments are official and they are being released on schedule. For people who have been waiting anxiously, especially those who may have had delays in previous months, this is very important news. Payment reliability is something that SASSA has been working on improving, because in the past there were too many cases of delayed transfers, system errors, or even people struggling with biometric verification. For September 2025, SASSA has reassured the public that the systems have been upgraded and the funds have been transferred successfully. If you haven't yet received your grant, remember that processing times can vary depending on your bank. Some banks release the money almost instantly, while others may take a few hours or even a full day. But rest assured, the grant has been officially paid. Now, let's talk about the amount of the disability grant. As of September 2025, the standard amount for the disability grant remains at R2,180 per month. This amount has been in place since the last increase earlier this year, when the government made adjustments to account for inflation and the rising cost of living. It's important to note that the disability grant is meant to provide basic support, but it often falls short of covering all the costs that come with living with a disability. That is why so many households stretch this money carefully, and why timely payment is so critical. In addition to the disability grant, many recipients are also connected to other forms of government assistance. Some may also qualify for the child support grant if they are caregivers, or even for temporary relief through the Social Relief of Distress grant. This is why we always encourage people to check whether they qualify for more than one program. Sometimes people are not aware that they can receive multiple grants if they meet the eligibility requirements, and that extra money can make a big difference. Now let's move to the part that has raised many questions, the shocking new rules that have recently been introduced. These rules are not designed to punish recipients, but they are intended to tighten the system and reduce fraud. One of the biggest challenges SASSA has faced over the years is the misuse of grants by people who do not qualify, or by those who apply using false information. This kind of fraud takes money away from people who truly need it. As of September 2025, SASSA has announced new verification requirements for the disability grant. Recipients are now expected to go through a more regular medical reassessment to prove that they still meet the conditions for disability support. In the past, some recipients were able to continue receiving the grant for years without being re-examined. The new rule changes that. Now, SASSA will require periodic medical certificates from state-approved doctors to confirm that the disability is still valid for grant purposes. For some people, this might sound stressful. What if you are genuinely disabled but struggle to afford regular transport to the clinic for assessments? SASSA has said that they are working to provide mobile clinics and outreach services to rural areas to reduce this burden. But it is very important to understand this new rule clearly. If you do not submit updated medical information when asked, you risk having your grant suspended. That's why staying informed and keeping your documents up to date is now more important than ever. Another rule that has been updated involves banking verification. SASSA has noticed cases where multiple people were using the same bank account for different grants, which raised red flags about fraud and potential exploitation. Going forward, each grant must be linked directly to the recipient's verified personal bank account. If you are still collecting your grant using a family member's account or relying on cash collection at a pay point, you may be required to provide proof of identity and ownership of the account you use. This step is meant to ensure that grants reach the right people and to stop others from taking advantage of vulnerable recipients. It is also worth noting that the government has been under pressure to modernize the payment system. With technology advancing so quickly, there is a push to move more people toward direct electronic payments instead of cash collections. This reduces the risk of theft, reduces long queues, and makes it easier for people in rural areas to access their money safely. SASSA has said that they are not removing cash collection completely, but they are encouraging as many people as possible to switch to direct bank payments. If you do not yet have a personal bank account, this might be a good time to consider opening one with a low-cost option. Before we continue, let's pause for a moment and think about why these updates matter. The disability grant is more than just a monthly deposit. It represents dignity, independence, and stability for people who often feel left out of the economy. When the payment arrives on time, it allows someone to buy medication, pay for transport, put food on the table, and live with a little more peace of mind. But when payments are delayed, or when rules are unclear, the stress can be overwhelming. That's why today's confirmation of payment, combined with the explanation of new rules, is so important for every recipient to hear and understand. In part 2 of this video, we are going to go deeper. We'll talk about the broader context of pensions, stimulus support, and how these grants connect to other benefits for seniors and families. We'll also look at some practical tips on how to manage your grant money more effectively, how to prepare for medical reassessments, and how to protect yourself from scams that often target SASSA beneficiaries. So keep watching, because the information in part 2 could help you not only today, but for many months and years to come. Today's update on the SASSA Disability Grant and the shocking new rules that have been confirmed for September 2025. In the first part, we covered the most urgent information, the fact that the disability grant has officially been paid today, the current grant amount, and the new rules regarding medical reassessments and banking verification. Now we are going to go deeper, because the disability grant does not exist in isolation. It is part of a larger social safety net that includes pensions, child grants, and even temporary relief programs. Understanding how all of these work together can help you make better decisions for yourself and your family. Let's begin with pensions. The old age pension, also known as the Older Persons Grant, is one of the largest programs that SASSA manages, and it is closely linked to the disability system. For many South Africans, the pension is the primary source of income once they turn 60 years old. The current payment, as of September 2025, is R2,180 per month for individuals between the ages of 60 and 74, and slightly higher at R2,200 for those aged 75 and above. These amounts are nearly identical to the disability grant, which is intentional. The system is designed so that when someone reaches pension age, their disability grant can be converted into an old age pension without a loss of income. Why does this matter for disability grant recipients? Because if you are currently receiving disability support and you are approaching retirement age, you should prepare for the transition. The process is not automatic in every case. Some people assume that once they turn 60, their disability grant simply changes into an old age pension, but in reality, SASSA often requires fresh applications or at least updated documents. It's important to start preparing early, gathering your ID, proof of residence, and any relevant bank details so that you don't experience a gap in payments during the transition. Another area we need to talk about is the Social Relief of Distress Grant, often referred to as the R350 grant. While it is much smaller than the disability or old age grants, it has been a critical form of relief for unemployed people and those who fall through the cracks of the system. The government has been under intense pressure to extend and improve this program. In fact, there has been ongoing debate about turning the Social Relief of Distress Grant into a permanent basic income grant. If that happens in the near future, it could affect the overall structure of social assistance in South Africa, because more people would qualify for a guaranteed minimum income. Now, let's bring this back to seniors and people with disabilities. Even though the Social Relief of Distress Grant is usually targeted at unemployed adults, households often combine income from multiple sources. For example, a grandmother may receive an old age pension, while her adult daughter receives a disability grant, and the grandchildren may qualify for the child support grant. When these grants are combined, they form a patchwork of income that keeps the household afloat. This is why any delay, suspension, or new rule in one program has ripple effects on the entire family. Speaking of the child support grant, it is worth mentioning that this grant remains at R530 per child per month as of September 2025. While this is a relatively small amount, it continues to be one of the most widely distributed grants in South Africa. Families who receive the disability grant should always check if they also qualify for the child support grant, because combining them can provide more stability. Now, I want to shift into something very practical: how to manage your disability grant in a way that stretches it further. For many households, R2/180 does not cover everything, especially with rising food and transport costs. One of the most common tips from financial advisors is to prioritize the essentials first. That means medication, food, and rent or shelter costs should always come before any non-essential spending. SASSA has also recommended that beneficiaries try to avoid taking out high-interest loans against their grants. Loan sharks often target grant recipients, offering quick cash but trapping them in cycles of debt that eat up the majority of their income. If you are ever tempted to take such a loan, remember that your grant is meant to provide long-term stability, not short-term debt. Another important point is to safeguard your grant against scams. Unfortunately, whenever there is money involved, there will be people trying to exploit the system. SASSA has repeatedly warned about fraudulent messages and phone calls where scammers pretend to be SASSA officials. These scammers often ask for personal details such as ID numbers, PIN codes, or even banking information. Remember this rule: SASSA will never ask you for your banking PIN, password, or to send money in order to release your grant. If someone contacts you and asks for these details, it is a scam. The safest approach is to ignore such messages and report them if possible. There are also scams that happen at pay points. Some individuals wait outside stores or post offices, offering to help seniors withdraw their money. In reality, they either steal the card details or take a large portion of the cash. If you ever feel unsure or unsafe, ask a trusted family member to accompany you, or go to a well-staffed bank branch. Protecting your grant is as important as receiving it. Now let's revisit the new rules about medical reassessment, because many people are understandably anxious about this. SASSA has clarified that not every disability grant recipient will be reassessed at once. Instead, they will be focusing first on cases where the original medical assessment was temporary or where the condition was not considered permanent. For example, if someone received a temporary disability grant after a serious injury but later recovered, SASSA wants to make sure that the grant is still going to those who truly need it. However, people with permanent disabilities will also face periodic checks, though these may be less frequent. The important takeaway is that you should always keep your medical records safe and up to date, and respond quickly to any communication from SASSA. The second major rule, about linking grants directly to personal bank accounts, is another area where people are asking questions. Some beneficiaries don't have bank accounts, often because they live in rural areas or because they've never felt the need to open one. Others rely on family members to collect money for them. SASSA's move toward direct banking is meant to improve security, but it can feel like a barrier for people who are unfamiliar with banking. If you are in this situation, consider asking a trusted family member to help you open a basic, low-fee account at a local bank. Many banks in South Africa offer accounts specifically designed for grant recipients, with no monthly fees and simple withdrawal options. This way, your money goes directly to you, and you reduce the risk of it being stolen or misused by others. Looking at the bigger picture, these changes show that the government is trying to strike a balance between providing support and maintaining accountability. The disability grant alone costs billions of rand each year, and with the economy under pressure, the government wants to make sure that every rand is going to the right place. This is why we are seeing tighter rules, more verification, and greater use of technology. Some people will see this as extra stress, but in the long run, it could strengthen the system and ensure that grants remain available for future generations. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the emotional side of all this. Receiving a disability grant or a pension is not just about money. For many seniors and people living with disabilities, it is about recognition and dignity. It is the government saying, "We see you, we value you, and we are here to support you." That's why delays, fraud, or confusing new rules can feel so devastating. They threaten that sense of dignity. It's important to remember that you are not alone. Millions of South Africans are in the same situation, and by staying informed and supporting each other, communities can reduce the stress that comes with navigating the system. So, what have we learned today? We now know that the disability grant for September 2025 has officially been paid. We know the current amount remains at $180 per month, and we understand that new rules about medical reassessments and direct bank verification are now in effect. We also explored how these changes connect to pensions, child support, and relief grants, and why it is so important to manage your grant carefully and protect yourself from scams. Most importantly, we've highlighted that these grants are more than just financial, they are about stability, dignity, and survival. As we close this video, I want to leave you with this reminder: always keep your documents updated, always be cautious with your personal information, and always make sure that you collect your grant safely. Share this information with your family and friends, because the more people who know the facts, the fewer people will fall victim to misinformation or fraud. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss another update. We are here to provide clear, respectful, and useful information to help you navigate these challenges with confidence. Thank you for joining us today. Stay safe, stay informed, and take care of yourself and your loved ones. Until next time, goodbye.